Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is CMG Talk. This is Catherine Gallagher. So at the moment, I'm focusing right now on different types of behaviours and emotions that are provoked from these types of behaviours. And one of the behaviours that we can often hear, see, and maybe we have is aggressive pursuit. And when people talk to me about aggressive pursuit, they often, along with that, talk about high levels of dopamine, adrenaline, intensity. And they'll often talk about competitiveness. Aggressive pursuit. I will go for whatever I want, regardless of who's in my way, regardless of what it is. If it's mine, I want it, I'll take it. There's a real intensity to someone who aggressively pursues whatever they want, regardless of the consequences. The consequences in their mind might be worth it. The consequences might also be quite chaotic, devastating. It's about pursuing wealth. It's about pursuing materialistic. It's about pursuing sometimes happiness. Sometimes aggressive pursuit is about competitive and getting the competitive edge. If we're someone that has a high intensity in a field of wanting to aggressively pursue, so you might be working in a highly competitive environment. You feel that everyone is out for themselves, and you have to aggressively pursue every aspect. You have to constantly side edge everything that is going on. You're watching your back all the time. There isn't really camaraderie. There might be in the surface, superficially. It might be at work. It might be in your personal life. It might be in both places. You have to aggressively pursue whatever you want, take whatever you want, and see that whatever is there is for the taking. High levels of dopamine reward. It's very adrenaline driven. You aggressively pursue regardless of the consequences of others, because it's about meeting your own needs. Sometimes people aggressively pursue because they have missions, because they have projects, because they have an intention to pursue something that they are single-minded about. Injustice, adversity, revenge. Aggressively pursuing something, we often lose sight of rationality, reason, perspective. Sometimes compassion and empathy wanes by the side, depending, of course, doesn't it, on what we're aggressively pursuing. I write narratives. I talk with narratives. I will paint pictures with narratives, with my words, my stories, and imagery. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about someone, you, others, people, you might have watched an action-packed movie or a thriller, or someone that has been aggressively pursuing. You have felt that power, that seductiveness, that passion, that commitment, and thought, they're aggressively pursuing something. There's a real intensity. Captivating. But it's hard to come down from. The impact on you emotionally, psychologically, physiologically, the trauma that can actually, and often does, come from high intensity, constantly, aggressively pursuing. Because our body can't sustain that. When someone always has to have the edge, always has to be pursuing, competing, the best, be the best, get the best, have the best, do the best. The pressure on you psychologically, mentally and emotionally and physically is overwhelming. It's not sustainable. It might be you're in a field where there's so much competition. It might be in entertainment. It might be in some kind of field where there's very few at the top and there's lots at the lower levels. The competition is fierce. It's ruthless. It's unforgiving. It might be you're aggressively pursuing something for the greater good, for your good, for someone else's good. Sometimes, the end of it, you feel drained, worn out, tapped out. Was it worth it? Is it worth it? Only we can answer that. Only you can answer that. Pacing. Understanding what is a good pace, a good level. What is good enough? When I did that episode that dropped on perfectionism, being a perfectionist, and the amount of pressure and duress that you put yourself under. Have you listened to that? Have you thought about that? Have you shared that to other people you think might be putting themselves under unfair, unnecessary, unrealistic pressures and stress and strain? But when we have this aggressive pursuit, constantly putting ourselves under this, it can be thrilling, it can be exciting, it can be adrenaline building, whether it might be in some competitive capacity. But when does it ever feel that you're achieving enough, have enough? It can be addictive. And when we then default, or when we become addicted to that type of behaviour, then recognising that, accepting that, can seem that you've lost control. And often people find it difficult to take that on, to address it, because we go into justification. It's just, I want to do, I want to have. What's the harm? But when we lose sight of our health is our wealth, and we lose sight of relationships that are healthy, and we lose sight of balanced perspective, and we are pursuing things aggressively at a detriment to empathy and consideration and compassion. I've seen people accumulate enormous wealth and be exceptionally happy. very compassionate, very caring and very kind, but I've also seen people accumulate very little and have enormous happiness because they're focused on balance and perspective and love and care and relationships. Accumulating things isn't what brings us happiness. Aggressively pursuing the wrong things isn't what brings us happiness. It's understanding what we need to give us a sense of fulfillment and finding that balance in life. Surely that's what we look for, because it's about being the best version of ourselves. When I work with people that are in a very highly competitive environments, or I work with people that are aggressively pursuing things to the point that it's affecting their health, they might have high blood pressure, they might have enormous levels of stress, they might feel that it's never good enough, they're always constantly on edge, overwhelmed. Does any of this fit with you? Can you relate to this? Is this a term you've ever heard before? Presenteeism, where someone's working all hours beyond and above the hours that they could reasonably be expected to do, where they're working and not getting paid for those hours. Pursuing something to the point where everything else pales into the background, losing sight of everything else, single-mindedness. It's all that matters. If and when I reach this will make everything okay. But that, even when that's achieved, it's never enough. It's never good enough. It's always more. It always has to be more and more and more and more and more. Aggressive pursuit. Thanks for listening. This is CMG Talk. This is Catherine Gallagher, and welcome to another episode. Until next time. Conversations are always important. Let's keep them coming. And if you do want anything in particular for me to talk about, remember, you can DM me, you can go onto Instagram, and remember, like, share and download. That then allows Spreaker and all the other good channels that listen to me and share and sponsor me, allows me to keep my podcast going. Adverts allow me to do that too. Thanks again. Take good care. All the best. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Until next time.